Alright, it's been a few hours, part 2.
Information. He's from Germany. And he makes these statements in that book. There is no known natural law through which matter can give rise to information. And he says this, a code...
Just a refresher, I literally Googled who this was. Not a biologist, not a chemist. This is a young Earth creationist with, I think it was... What was his degree? Let me Google
system. In other words, a language is all interesting. We've never seen matter produce one bit of brand new information. The Git wrote, there is no information. He's
Warner Git. What was it? Let's see. Warner. You know what? Let me.
From Germany. And he makes these statements in that book. There is no known natural law through which matter can give rise to information. And he says this, a code system, in other words, a language, is...
Okay, so, not a chemist, not a biologist. This man was a German engineer and young Earth creationist. So he is absolutely not qualified to speak on this topic.
Always the result of a mental process. It requires an intelligent origin or inventor. DNA is a language system and an information system. It could not have come about from matter on its own. It's absolutely impossible. Now,
okay. So, because he's talking about abiogenesis right now, I'm gonna just do this again. I know I talked about this before as well, but I went over this. We have seen the things that assemble, like, we have seen the things needed to assemble life out in outer space. We've seen those things, and we've seen them self-assemble in a lab. I'm not sure if we've actually recreated abiogenesis, but it's probably entirely possible. It's entirely possible that we have at this point in time, because this was like 5 years ago. 5+ years ago, that we've known that, like, all of the things necessary for abiogenesis have existed for millions, billions of years. Like, this is not a mystery.
Now you might say to me, well, wait a minute. Well, what do the atheists say about that? What about those people who are scientists who don't believe in God? Don't they have an answer? Oh, I'm glad you asked me that question. I want to show you a video clip of an interview with Dr. Richard Dawkins. Who's heard of Dr. Dawkins? Dr. Richard Dawkins. Oh, yeah, I think many of us heard of him. He wrote the book, The God Delusion.
Who wants to bet that this is going to be super quote mined, or maybe it's even fabricated like that one video? That was funny. That was really funny to me that they just fabricated a quote.
An atheist. He spends most of his life fighting against someone he doesn't even believe exists. A number of years ago, we had someone who interviewed Dr. Dawkins to ask him this question.
It's absolutely despicable to me that he's peddling this to children, and they keep, like, panning to the kids in the audience. Absolutely horrendous to me.
Question, Dr. Dawkins, here's an atheist. Can you give an example, we only wanted one, where matter produces information and adds it into the genes? By the way, if evolution is true, it had to happen zillions of times.
Okay, so that question is nonsensical. And I bet he just fucking laughed his ass off after that question. That is a nonsensical question. I believe the question was, when has matter, created information in DNA? This is a really dumb question that you'd only be able to ask if you know absolutely nothing about the topic. Absolutely nothing.
We just want one example, just one. I want you to see how he answered the question. Watch this.
Professor Dawkins, can you give an example of a genetic mutation or an evolutionary process?
Okay, so first of all, that was literally not the question that Ken Ham just stated. Which explains a lot. Because Ken Ham really stupidly paraphrased that question.
Which can be seen to increase the information in the genome.
There he is giving the right answer right now. Can you hear it? That is the right answer. There's no example. Now you might say, okay.
What do you want to bet that this is just him thinking about the question and that they completely leave out the part where he answers the question?
That was years ago. What does Dr. Dawkins...
Okay, yeah, let me look that up. What is this? It doesn't even show, like, what video this was or anything.
Right now, can you hear it? That is the right answer. There's no example. Now you might say, okay, that was years ago. What?
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that he answered that question right after that cut. I'd be willing to bet literally everything I own, except I don't own much. But, you know, it's like, yeah, like I said, I'd be willing to bet that he answered the question after that. You've seen in this series, if you've seen other videos in this playlist, I'm going to put this in. It'll be in the end credits. It always is. But, like, we've seen that creationists have, time and time again, just taken the only part of a quote that seems like it agrees with them and just leave out the parts that are actually important. I've seen there was one time where the dude left in the latter part of the quote that fucking debunks him, and he just doesn't say it, but he leaves the quote in there.
What does Dr. Dawkins say now? Oh, I'm glad you asked me that question too. How many of you have seen the movie called Expelled? Oh yeah, a lot of us have seen Expelled. I want to show you a video clip from that because here's Dr. Dawkins.
Pretty sure that was a creationist movie that was really bad, wasn't it? It was a really bad creationist movie.
Who many years after that video clip was asked the question, how did life arise on Earth?
Was that a different one? I'm not sure. If it isn't, there's one by a very similar name that's... It was hinted at like an Easter egg in a different creationist movie, and it was like, why?
What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design might turn out to be the answer to some issues in genetics or in evolution?
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet.
Which is entirely possible, but there's no evidence as such.
That is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature.
But I want you guys to think about what he said in the beginning, because I bet you Ken Ham is probably going to completely gloss over what he said in the beginning. And what he said in the beginning was, it's possible a different civilization evolved through the same methods and seeded the life here. He is not saying God here. He is saying a different, like, race. Like, completely alien race on a totally different planet seeded the life here, but ultimately they came from the same sort of processes that we did.
Of some sort of
Do you know what he's talking about when he's talking about look at biochemistry and find a signature? He's talking about DNA. You know what he's really acknowledging? DNA cries out there's an intelligence behind.
He said it was possible. He did not say it was true. He said it was possible. And a great many things are possible.
Behind the universe. He doesn't believe in God, so it had to be some intelligence from outer space that brought life to Earth. Let's go on.
biology, you might find a signature
Like I said, just completely glossed over that.
of some sort of designer.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate...
Completely misunderstanding what he said. Completely misunderstanding what he said, and also just using what he said to prop up your bullshit. Which is incredibly intellectually dishonest.
pursuit?
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
Well,
but that higher intelligence would itself have had to have come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. It couldn't have just...
He was going over what he said in the beginning again. What do you want to bet that Ken Ham is just going to go right over it again?
jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point.
So Professor Dawkins was not against intelligent design, just certain types of designers, such as God.
Well,
Not what he said. That's not what he said. At all. He said that it is possible that life on this planet was started, seeded here by a designer. He never said anything about evolution on this planet not being real, because that's not what he believes. He said that life may have been seeded here by a designer, sure. But he also said that that designer would have had to come about by processes that would have to be explainable. Your idea of how God got here is he's existed forever, which is bullshit.
oh, there you have it. There's one of the leading atheists in the world giving you the evidence to support his faith.
Quote mind, to absolute oblivion.
That life evolved. It came.
I guess that's unfair. Not quote mind, well, kind of quote mind. He left in a lot of important parts, but he doesn't actually listen to them. He just glosses over them in his explanation.
Came to Earth from outer space. And think about that for a moment, by the way. Dr. Dawkins.
Absolutely despicable. Absolutely despicable.
How did life on Earth get here? Well, maybe some civilization out there in outer space that it itself evolved, had to bring life to Earth. So if you go back to that planet, wherever it is, and you said to him, well, how did life on this planet first come about? Well, I guess his answer would be, well, there was another planet out there somewhere where life...
He literally just said that it would have had to happen via the same mechanisms that we explain life on this planet today. Which means if life was seeded here by a different, aliens, they would have had to come about via abiogenesis and evolution.
life evolved and they brought life to that planet, they brought it to this planet. Well, okay, let's go back to that planet now. Now, how did life come about on that planet? Well, there must have
I'm sorry, but this is a really dumb expression.
been another planet somewhere out there and life evolved, and he mocks at us for believing in an infinite creator God. Do you know what? It's the atheist that has a blind faith because the evidence does not confirm their...
This is the despicable part. This is the truly just awful thing about Answers in Genesis. And it's that their goal isn't truth. Their goal is to get you to believe that their goal is just to drag science down to their level. They're not trying to make themselves better. They're not trying to get actual evidence for their beliefs because they already know that their beliefs are faith-based. Their true goal is to go and make it seem like science is faith-based too, to be like, oh, we're not truly that different, and you just think you're better than us. And it's really fucking dishonest. It's really fucking dishonest. Fuck. God fucking damn it. I'm gonna stop this part here
faith.
because apparently I have something that needs tending to.